Hales, Fish.
Well, welcome. We have a quorum, so we will begin the council meeting. I think we're going to be joined by our other colleagues shortly. Carla, would you please begin with communications, item number 264.
Request of Thomas Kerr to address council regarding difficulties with the Bureau of Development Services. He has withdrawn his request. He is working with BDS.
Excellent. Thank you. Carla, would you please read item number 265?
Request of Reverend Margaret Hepzibah to address council regarding justice. She has to work today and is not able to make it.
Okay, I don't seem to be having a lot of luck this morning with our...
Why don't you let me talk since you blocked me?
Hey, David, we got to do some business here. Amanda, I don't know if you've met Phil House, the mayor.
Please sit down. Please sit down.
You know Dan, I think. Dan Saltzman.
Dan,
Phil House, the mayor of Pendleton. Good to see you.
We're live.
Okay.
We're live.
You know Commissioner Fish.
Yeah, how you doing? Nice to see you.
Well, good to see you, man.
You let me speak
Welcome.
since you blocked me.
All right, see you soon. All right.
For bringing in a sign.
Sir, you're going to have to sit down, or we're going to have to ask you to leave. You're interrupting the council meeting. You can't do that.
Mr. Davis, I've had to warn you before. I'm warning you again. You have 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1 to let us proceed. Thank you. Okay, let's get going. Thank you, Commissioner Fish. Where are we in the agenda?
266, Mayor.
Okay. Carla, could you read that?
266, request of Robert McCullough to address council regarding community center at Washington High School.
Come on up, please.
You can ask the mayor.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead and read 267, and Mary Ann can come up too.
267, request of Mary Ann Schwab to address council regarding community center at Washington High School.
Good morning.
I would defer to our most active activist.
Okay. All right.
True gentleman.
We've noticed that, yes. He's just here for other stuff, so we just give him. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's one of the best.
Yeah. Good morning.
Thank you. Appreciate your indulgence this morning. For the record, my name is Mary Ann Schwab. I live in the Sunnyside neighborhood, and I've been a community advocate for, I'd say, maybe 40 years. And thank you for letting me talk to you again about Washington High School. I'm here today to talk about the Washington Monroe Recreation Center and Commissioner Salzman's option to purchase the southeast corner, 1.31 acres of the open field that will expire May 2017. The amendment 185561, where Portland Public Schools and the City of Portland also agreed to continue to pursue the existing ongoing partnerships outlined in Exhibit A of the City Resolution number 36929, adopted on June 6, 2012, for the southeast corner of the Washington Monroe site. I am asking City Council to allow their intergovernmental agreement resolution number 36929 to lapse today and pass the parks fundraising task over to the Southeast Uplift Board of Directors. It has been my honor to represent the Sunnyside Neighborhood Association as their liaison, serving on 2 WAMO community advisory committees, and I'm anxious to get started again. I will not give up until I'm the last one to jump in the swimming pool and run through the neighborhood with the neighborhood children through the splash pad water feature on that 1.31 acres of open field facing Southeast Morrison. To that end, I have brought a real-life financial expert, Robert McCullough, to address the finer points, how to move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. A pleasure to see you, Mayor and Commissioners. You have no idea how much I had to sweet talk her before that endorsement. So, this is actually a simple business issue. 4 years ago, the city ended up with a first right of refusal. It's described in Resolution 36925. That will disappear in a year. At the moment, Commissioner Fritz does not have the funds to proceed. We understand that. That's life. That's not what we're here today about. What we are here today about is preserving that first right of refusal. And there are a couple of ways we can go with this. One of which is simply to assign it to Southeast Uplift and watch us fall on our face. Now, the good news is that way you get a fair amount of energy, a fair amount of expertise, and we have a good chance of preserving an economic asset. Now, most of us who have been in real estate, and I have bought and sold a lot of real estate in my life, know that a first right of refusal is an asset. It's actually a valuable asset. You can actually appraise that asset. For us to lose it without fighting for it is inappropriate. Now, Mary Ann will discuss the rights and wrongs of why we need that community center and the associated land. She's been at it forever. She knows vastly more than I do. But what I do know is that I can put together a team, both lawyers and real estate folks, to go bust our butt on this particular issue. And I came today with a quote from Mark Twain, two quotes in fact, on the theory that you should be both entertaining and substantive in your comments to elected officials. So the first quote from Mark Twain is, if it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat two frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. Bottom line here is, we are happy to eat your frog for you. Second quote is actually right to the point. Do the right thing. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. We would like to help you astonish some people on this project. I've talked to our board members and our volunteers. We have people who can help and will help. And we would like that opportunity from you. The one thing I don't want to see is for this just to fade away. Another lost opportunity. And I will also close my comments early. Thank you very much, Mayor and Commissioners.
Thank you both.
Mayor, since we were a little heavy on time this morning, can I ask a couple of questions?
Sure, please.
Mary Ann, I just want to go back in time for a second. And please just correct me if my memory is faulty. The option that we're talking about was an option that Commissioner Randy Leonard advocated for at a time when the city was, in my recollection is, the city was helping the school district with financial support. Is that correct?
Correct.
And again, it's just a number of years ago, and Mayor, I am going to ask the city attorney's office reconstruct this for us. Mm-hmm. But my recollection is that Commissioner Leonard, in consideration for some support that the city gave to the school district, Commissioner Leonard advocated for an option at this site which would complete the parcel of public ownership at the Washington Monroe site. Commissioner Saltzman advocated for obtaining a lease agreement for a intergenerational housing development in Lentz. And I, among others, advocated for the school district incorporating the planning for future community gardens in every new capital construction project. I believe all of that at some point was memorialized in a memorandum of understanding with the school district. I may be wrong, but you're nodding.
Correct. I have copies of all of that.
So one of the challenges, of course, is a past council entered into this transaction, which included a lot of moving pieces. And I don't know that as a body we've had a chance to revisit that agreement and determine the status of a number of commitments we made. A future council is free to say, we relinquish this claim or that claim. But I do think with the passage of 4 years, it's important that we know what it is that we understood the school district was committing to in consideration for a substantial public investment we made in schools at that time. So I am going to ask that the city attorney's office pull that agreement and review what mutual commitments were made and the status of those mutual commitments. And I also want to find out whether we have the legal right to transfer an option of this nature. My recollection is hazy on this. I do remember a lot of conversation about securing a vacant school property in Lentz because Commissioner Saltzman was so passionate about another intergenerational housing community. And I, at the time, was very interested in expanding community garden opportunities for kids at schools. But I think it's important we revisit it, that we also better understand what the intent was. I think I know the intent at Washington Monroe, but I think we should revisit that. And then I think the council needs to decide whether there's any follow-up action it wants to take, because we do have a binding MOU. And I don't know what our legal rights are with that. There is a value to that dirt, and it is one thing to exercise the option. If we don't have the money to acquire that option, the option itself has value. The question is, could some third party act on our behalf? I don't know the legal answer to that, but you've raised that as a question.
Marianne, can I take this?
Go ahead.
And if I misstated anything,
No,
you
no.
let me know.
Frankly, I'm impressed and like hell that you can remember 4 years back with that precision. 36929 is actually the MOU, and you stated the facts very well. We've asked for the actual legal language that was adopted after 36929. No one can find it on our end. I've had my staff go through it. We've troubled Commissioner Saltzman's staff, thank you very much, to help us, and we've been over to the city document repository as well. So you're entirely correct. It needs to be revisited. We're raising the question today. We've put some other board members on the agenda for the next session, knowing that this is not something you can leap out into space on. And so we will have 2 more presentations at, I believe, the next.
Next Wednesday.
And
Mr. McCullough, can I ask you one other question? Because I think there's some follow-up, and our city attorney has said she will follow up on this for the council. The other question I have for either of you is there any proposed action in the comprehensive plan that would impact this particular site? That is, do we have any proposal before us that's under consideration in the comprehensive plan process that might impact the future zoning or entitlements on this site?
I've had this conversation with Mayor Hales on the 28th of May, and I came into his office when we had the surplus money, and I said, I need $1 million. We already have 985 in queue with PDC.
That happens all the time.
We've all had that conversation.
That's right, and he said, Marianne, it doesn't take $2 million
polite
to
but firm with
change
all
the
of us.
zone from RH1 to maintain it. As for your question on the comp plan, Portland Public Schools has gone and tried to increase the zone from RH1 to CM3. Our planners, our very wise, highly skilled planners said, no, we're not having spot zoning on that location. I've done my best to move the FAR off that land over to the Broadway Corridor Project. Couldn't get anyone to respond to me. I have gone through one maze after another. And when you talk about the former city council, 3 of you have already worked on the Parks Commission. I mean, this has been ongoing. I've been at this since 1980 to keep the land in the public domain, in the commons. And I want to go back to, and I'll leave you with this one thought. Ed Lyle, to interim superintendent Jim Scheringer, said, why is it we have to buy land we've owned since 1904, held in the commons for the common good, to purchase it a second time for a public park?
That's a separate issue. and
That's huge.
No, but
question.
that comes up with
That's your comp plan.
however,
That
I
comes
told
up-
you I would kick you if you
Kick me
move
off.
off the top.
No, but that issue comes up with our utilities. It comes up with our with the relationship between our school districts and the city. And I understand you have a very strong view on that. Last question: what is, to your knowledge, what does Portland Public Schools intend to do with that dirt? If the option
Sell it.
lapses?
There's 2 developers in Q1 expressed strong interest in purchasing that land, which would, the way it's zoned, would be an 8-story condo. And we've already creamed the department with overflow parking when all of a sudden we lost 32 to 34 on-site parking at the St. Francis apartments going in. 106 apartments are coming in. You and I know that 72.4 people will have a car. We're creaming our own project with poor vision. We keep thinking in the box lot by lot, and we're not stepping back to look at how this crazy quilt fits. And I would really expect to hear from you shortly. I'm very appreciative, Nick, that you do have a memory. You have remembered this. I'm sure that in his quiet way, Dan Salzman does too. I've seen his signature on so many statements. I know he just doesn't
I'm
sign
working
them.
on remembering this all, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's move on, please, to the consent calendar.
Robert?
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you both. We've had a couple of items removed from the consent calendar to the regular agenda. One is 271, and the other is 272. Any others? If not, then let's take a vote, please, on the balance of the consent calendar minus those two items.
Fritz.
Aye.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Hales.
Aye. Okay, then let's move, please, to item 268.
268, accept and appropriate a grant in the amount of $250,000 from Metro for the North-Northeast Community Development Pathway 1000 Initiative Project.
Ms. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Zender, welcome. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Joe Zender, Chief Planner with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. And the action you're considering today is to accept grant funds from the Metro Community Planning and Development Grant Program. It's a construction excise tax grant program. And this is one of 4 grants that the city was awarded last year. The others you've approved or will approve on consent. But this grant in particular is an example of how we're trying to use this Metro program to actually move towards implementation of comp plan and other objectives as well. And implementation to us in this case is a planning document, but it's with and by a community development group for the implementation plan of an initiative that's called Pathway 1000. So I'm here today with Maxine Fitzgerald, who's the Executive Director of PCRI, who would, what? Fitzpatrick, sorry. And who's the recipient of the grant with us. Most of the $250,000 is going to PCRI. And I offer the opportunity for Maxine to tell you about Pathway 1000 and the use of the grant.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Pathway 1000 is one of the most comprehensive housing undertaking that PCRI has done since, I would say, its formation and the preservation of the Dominion Capital Bank rental housing portfolio. We're excited about the opportunity to do some displacement mitigation, number one, but also to look at this development opportunity that has a 10-year time frame, look at the total economic impact that it has on the residents as well as the city and as well as the county, and to be able to engage other community-based organizations, private consultants, our educational system, Portland State University, private development partners, and as I indicated, extensive community engagement process that will utilize past data from the city's engagement of the community as well as current reports, state of housing in Portland, to produce a document that not only talks about what we're going to build, where we're going to build, and the total economic impact of that 10-year engagement process in the city of Portland. I think oftentimes when we develop housing, we do it in isolation in terms of thinking about the impact that it brings to the community. We're looking at the employment opportunities, business creation, elevation of underemployed people, and we're looking at it basically from a holistic approach. And I think when we're done and present this report back to the city, that you'll be hopefully proud to be a part of and supportive of it, as you have done in other housing development activities in the city. I also applaud the opportunity to have attention given to the housing needs of culturally specific communities. Oftentimes we kind of block them all together, but they do have different and separate needs, as no one size fits all. So I'm appreciative of the city's understanding of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both very much. Questions about this grant?
I have one question for either of you. in the Exhibit B that's attached to our materials, it describes the team that's working on this, and it's Maxine Yu as the Executive Director of PCRI, Nan Stark from the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and then Tyler Bump from BPS. And I'm just curious, why is there no one from the Housing Bureau listed as a project sponsor or team member?
The Housing Bureau actually has been a participant in the development of the grant from the initiation, actually,
Right,
the first
exactly.
meetings with the PCR board. So that would be an oversight. But, our role in this thing is to provide some assistance and stay in the loop, because this is a PCRI-led project, but it was developed with Harvey Armenia at the Housing Bureau. So
I think that the mechanical answer is Metro makes planning grants to planning agencies, so therefore it comes to the Planning Bureau. But that doesn't mean other bureaus can't be involved.
yes, and I think that exhibit is based on our Metro materials, and so we're using the staff time from those two BPS staff as the match for this grant.
And we do have an oversight committee that will definitely involve the engagement of the Portland Housing Bureau. They're looked at and considered one of the partners in this development, specifically since it's, the main goal is to create housing. So it's no way they could not be an integral part of what we do and how we do it.
Other questions? Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone want to speak on this item?
We have two people signed up, Michael W. Duro and David Davis.
Yeah, come on up, please. Good morning.
Michael is also a commissioner of the Multnomah Director of the Multnomah Education Service District. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome.
How are you doing? The MESD is not meeting this week, so I decided to be collegial and come here and visit you. I wanted to speak for the idea of developing more forms of low-income housing. I've been online looking for any real co-op housing in Portland, and there doesn't really seem to be a lot of that. But I think that the city needs to encourage with carrots and sticks, incentivize, in other words, the opportunity for people to have shared housing, co-op housing, and any other, and then when you go into co-op housing, and then individual housing, and things like trailers that can be moved, like smaller trailers that can be moved, and I'm sorry, I'm very, and even maybe some campgrounds with tents for people that have animals and don't want to be indoors. And that's just throwing in my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Appreciate your partnership.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I had the honor of swearing Michael in his new position. He had invited someone else to come the night that I swore in Stephen Marc Quadois.
Mhm.
His special guest did not arrive, so we got a 2 for the price
Hey,
of 1.
well, that's good.
And,
Glad you were there.
Thank you for your service, Michael.
Good morning. You're next, Mr. Davis.
So I wanted to suggest that you guys actually do a better job on housing by buying a bunch of the foreclosure properties that have made a lot of people homeless to begin with. And there's a 37% vacancy rate in foreclosures in Portland and the Vancouver area. And you guys could easily buy up surplus bank-owned foreclosed properties and put people back in the housing instead of having them sit there and rot to maybe, possibly be torn down and rebuild after they sit for 10 years or more not doing anything for the community. And, you guys might want to think too about funding some city-owned hostels or something like that, because in this town, I was actually homeless for a long time, And I tried to check into some of the hostels around here, and I found out that you have to be an out-of-state resident. You can't be a local resident to even go to the hostels around here. So basically all the hostels around here are not even accessible to homeless people that could afford to possibly spend the night at a place instead of a cheap, crappy motel, which this, and another thing, you guys could do, I don't know if you guys have ever slept in any of the crappy hotels on Interstate Avenue or 82nd Street. You might have been there, you might have visited or whatever, but I suggest you guys go do a tour and see the filthy conditions that people are forced to live in and pay, upward to $1,200 to $1,500 a month, or $300, $500 a week to stay at these little filth dens that have black mold, just horrendous, and maybe the city needs to regulate some of the hotels, or consider opening some of their own and regulate it to a certain level of standard, because I see a lot of waste in this city, and a lot of poverty pimps are always lining up to get their little pay at the trial, and I actually saw recently Joins figures, which are some of the main people that you guys refer people to for housing, and they had spent like 1.3 million on actual housing people, and they almost spent $1 million on their own staff, and so that's pretty crappy right there.
Thanks very much.
You might want to actually invest in some agencies that do something.
Okay. Thank you.
Or just let start giving the community some money instead of funneling it through property tax.
Okay, thanks very much. Actually, on the subject of abandoned foreclosed houses, we have a group of city staff that have been working on that issue for some time, and they are coming to council for a work session on April 5th. So actually, we have some folks working on that very problem, because you're right, there's some empty houses out there that have actually sat around empty a long time. So appreciate you bringing that up. Okay. Oh, David.
Homeless people could actually come in through some agency instead of having to go to all the poverty agencies, and actually just come to you, tell a caseworker their story and streamline it so they get into things,
Working on that.
There's a lot of stuff that just takes, if someone.
Okay, Mr. Davis, thank you. Thanks very much.
Remain homeless and do it wrong.
Okay, anyone else? Then let's please take a vote on this item, because it's an emergency ordinance.
Fritz?
So this grant is going to create a funding and implementation plan with the goal of 1,000 units of housing for displaced residents, identifying the sites and creating community benefits agreements, etc. I'm really pleased that it's aligning with the city's North-Northeast neighborhood housing investment strategy, and that the city is working together with the Housing Bureau, which did support this application. I'm particularly happy about this because I was serving on the Metro Policy Advisory Committee with Mayor Adams when we persuaded the Metro Council to continue the previous excise tax and to allow Portland to continue to be eligible for it. So it's fun to be able, and gratifying to see this money coming back to be put to implementation as well as planning. Thank you to all the staff, especially Tom Armstrong, who continues to do great work on the Metro Policy Advisory Committee, as well as Joe and Maxine and others who presented today. Aye.
Council was pleased to support the application that went to Metro, and now we're obviously pleased to accept the grant. And if we add 1,000 homes under this initiative in the next 20 years, there will be one person that will take a bow, and that is Maxine Fitzpatrick. Aye.
Councilman?
Well, I want to thank Metro and Bureau of Planning and Sustainability and PCRI, Maxine Fitzpatrick, for landing this grant and having ambitious goals, and we hope they are successful. Aye.
Nails?
It's good work and a good partnership. Thank you all very much. Aye. Okay, let's move on to 269, please.
Approve financing not to exceed $3,200,000 using federal community development block grant funds for the Hill Park Apartments at 110 Southwest Arthur Street to develop a 39-unit affordable rental housing project.
Commissioner Saltzman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very pleased today to bring forward this proposal to fund much-needed, deeply affordable housing in the Lair Hill Park neighborhood of Southwest Portland. This is a funding decision that resulted from our 2014 Notice of Funds Availability for Affordable Housing. This 39-unit new building will have 14 units which will be reserved for low-income Portlanders earning 30% or less of median family income. 8 units in the new building are reserved for those who have been diagnosed with a severe mental illness to allow for independent, supportive living options so desperately needed in our community. The remaining 31 units will have preference for individuals who have graduated from Central City Concerns, supportive services, rehabilitation programs, and achieved employment from Central City Concern Downtown Employment Access Center. There are several funding streams that are combined with the Portland Housing Bureaus to make this project possible. The State of Oregon Division of Addictions and Mental Health is providing $2 million. Home Forward is providing 10 project-based Section 8 vouchers. And Central City Concern is providing $200,000 a loan for the development. And the city, through the Community Development Block Grant, is providing $3.2 million. That's what we're hopefully approving today. This project really has been an all-hands-on-deck effort to make this project a reality. And I'd like to recognize Gerding Edlin Development, who has played a major role acquiring the site, mitigating environmental issues, negotiating the funding structure, and who will manage the construction and development. And I'd also like to recognize Central City Concern, who is aiding in the development and operations of this project. Here to present the project in more detail is Sarah Zahn with Gerding Edlin and Sean Hubert with Central City Concern.
Good morning. Come on up, please.
I don't know if you want to present more detail, but if you do, we're all ears.
I'm Sean Hubert. I'm the Chief Housing and Employment Officer of Central City Concern. We're very excited to be partnering with the city on this project, and after almost 2 years of work, excited to be able to sort of close financing and start construction next month. You gave a pretty good overview, Commissioner Saltzman, of the project. I think we're very pleased to be able to provide a high number of units in the project that are at and below 30% of area median income. And as you mentioned, we work on the employment side to help find jobs and start careers for over 500 formerly homeless people every year. And the rental market, as you know, is very, very tight. And what that does is it backs up our transitional units. And so we're not able to really help as many people as we could otherwise. And so we're very happy that this is going to help us bring some capacity online to sort of, for people who have been successful in our transitional housing and have find jobs, be able to move into and secure permanent housing, and then better leverage our existing transitional continuum. The project will also achieve Earth Advantage Gold and meets the city, actually will exceed the city's MWESB requirements, and we're utilizing a 100% minority-owned contractor on the project. With that said, I'll turn it over to Sarah, and also happy to take any questions.
Well, I think my name is Sarah Zahn, and thank you for having us today, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm with Gerding Edlin, and we've been fortunate to partner with Central City Concern on the development of this project, and are really excited to kick off the construction in about a month's time. I think Sean and the Commissioner have covered most of the details about the project. I'll just add that I think one of the exciting things about this project is really the funds that we've leveraged from multiple sources to make this happen. So as Commissioner Saltzman pointed out, we're using funds from the state of Oregon through the their Department of Mental Health to fund 8 units for folks with severe mental illnesses to be living independently in this housing, as well as funds through the City of Portland. We have funds from the state of Oregon through their low-income housing tax credit program, and then we're also leveraging a grant from Providence for solar energy at this project and Central City Concern Fund. So it's a great example of how multiple partners can come together to make projects like this a reality in the city.
Great.
Thank you both.
Other questions for this team?
Assuming that we will get the question, why is it a loan rather than a grant?
So for the city funds you're referring to, it really is a function of the requirement through the tax credit program at the state level that these funds be loaned into the project as opposed to being a grant. It's just a function of the way that the tax credit program works. But it is a grant. It's a 60-year term and at a 0% interest rate.
I have 2 questions. One is, recently Commissioner Saltzman brought forth legislation to streamline the process a little bit and to cut some of the red tape, particularly at design review. This particular development, I think, isn't covered by that because you're ready to break ground. Sarah, how would you characterize the experience you had getting to this point?
Sure. Well, this particular project was not actually subject to design review.
Right.
So we were a unique, it happened to be a unique location that was not subject to design review at all. So the project was exempt from that automatically. But I will say that during the permit process over the last 2 months, we, I think largely through discussions with PHB and some of the actions the Commissioner Saltzman has taken, we did see expedited review of our plans and felt that the permit went through faster than we expected.
That's terrific. And Sean, I have a question for you. I'm just really thrilled with the population you're going to serve here. And I don't remember, Dan, something that's come before us in the last few years that had such an aggressive mix of affordability. And since, units that are 0 to 30 of median family income are the kind of homes that currently homeless people might qualify for, and older adults on social security and disability and others. It's something we're deeply committed to, and this is an exciting development. I guess the question I had is, you're matching this with Section 8 vouchers. You're going to do some project basing. Which units will that help you subsidize, and what's the takeaway about just overall the value of a Section 8 voucher in order for you to hit your affordability goals?
The Section 8 voucher is pretty critical. We were able to, from the AMH grant that is coming into the project, we were able to actually buy down 4 of the units that will be set aside for people with serious mental illness to 30% without rental subsidy, and that was the nature of the AMH grant that came into the project. So we were able to get to some of that through sort of partnering with other agencies in the subsidy. But the remainder of the 30% units, really the Section 8 assistance is critical in order to achieve that level of subsidy on the units. We wouldn't be able to hit that without that.
And I know there's a debate in the community about to what extent we should project-base Section 8s versus allow people to use them in the marketplace. It does seem to us, however, that when the marketplace doesn't have available units and people can't find a place to rent, investing in a dedicated unit that then stays affordable for a long time is a community win. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. You probably know that we partner with the city as well in handling some rent assistance resources, and we also receive some funding from the state as well for flexible rent assistance. And we've had a very difficult time, particularly over the last year and a half, 2 years, in being able to place that rent assistance and people out into the community housing. And so we've actually had to use our own portfolio for some of that rent assistance because we just can't get it into the market. And so I think there is a great value in having, I think, both models where you have, flexible vouchers, but also project-based, because it enables groups that are working in this field, in this endeavor, more flexibility of ensuring that rental assistance can get utilized, if nothing else, that's utilized either in their own portfolio or in partner agency portfolios.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Fish, I'm seeing an additional benefit in this project being project-based because there's a unit for an on-site manager, and given that 8 of the units are targeted for people who are experiencing severe mental illness, 30 are from graduates of Central City Concern, I think it's really important to have an on-site manager and ongoing services as well as the housing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and it also seems like you're developing in an area that's a strong area for the folks you're serving. So I think we could subject this one to about 2 weeks of due diligence, and we wouldn't find one reason to criticize it. And I would just say congratulations to all of you for making this happen.
I just want to validate in the financial impact community inputs analysis. It talks about the Lair Hill Neighborhood Association. You meant the South Portland Neighborhood Association, right?
That's correct.
Could we correct that as a scrivener's error, please, Council Clerk? Thank you very much. Because they have, I know, been very involved and supported. This was a site that we looked at to see whether it might be good for Right to Drink too, and I think everybody agreed that it would be better for permanent supportive housing. So, well done, Commissioner Salzberg, for bringing this home.
I wasn't aware of the Providence grant for solar energy. Is that for solar electric or solar hot water or both?
For solar electric.
I guess the one, could I just add one other thing, Mayor? We've started to kick around an idea I just want to flag for you, and then at some point we'll follow up with you. You're gonna develop this project, and at some point the residents may come to you and say, we'd like to have some vending machines in the building. And it's not atypical. And that's why we often find vending machines that have sodas and snacks at shelters and affordable housing developments. And I've always wondered, when we do that, why we put some of the least healthy food in facilities with some of the most vulnerable people. And so there's an idea that's starting to get discussed quietly about setting some standards close to what the school district and the Parks Bureau has for healthy snacks and choices. And I will be talking to you more about that. But it seems to me that I always feel disheartened when I particularly go to a shelter and I see a machine that has high sugar, high salt, very unhealthy foods, beverages, and food. And I think I wish we were offering a healthy option. We do that now in our parks where we kick the junk food out and we only offer healthy food. And I think it's something that we're all going to be able to embrace, but I just would ask you to think about that going forward. To the extent there's a demand that we as a group think about making sure people have a healthy option as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, we through our primary care, we're serving about 8,000 people a year just through the primary care, and 2,000 of those are literally homeless, and about another 2,000 are either in transitional housing and shelters, doubled up, that sort of thing. And you know, we're seeing a lot of chronic medical issues, hypertension, diabetes, that sort of thing, the population we're serving, and are really looking at how can both the built environment, the buildings themselves, and what happens in the buildings, lead to better health for the people that we're working with, and we'd be very supportive of that conversation.
And just a quick PSA on this: when with the help of Nancy Becker and the public health community, we kicked junk food out of the rec centers, there was no drop in sales, because it turns out it was still a captive market, and we weren't precluding people from having choices. We were just, it turns out that Coca-Cola also makes fruit juices and low sugar drinks and water drinks and other things. And what I think we're all beginning to realize is, just like 7-Elevens tend to end up in areas that have food deserts, so what people get is lots of potato chips and soda, but not necessarily healthy food. We want to make sure that folks in the facilities that we fund also have access to healthy food. You're a leader in this, but I'm previewing an idea that's been kicking around that we're going to be talking more about.
Good idea. Thank you both very much. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on this item?
David Davis.
Okay, come on up.
Commissioner Saltzman, Fritz, Mayor Hales, my name is Crystal Elinsky, and I represent 10,000. God, it's so hard to take any of this seriously. Very privileged to be here. It is quite a privilege to come all the way down to City Hall in the center of the city, where we have so much already at our doorstep. We have all of this empty real estate, all of these services, agencies that are part of the umbrella of the Portland Business Alliance and getting all these funds. I wouldn't worry about loans because oftentimes the city hall will just waive the amount, so it's technically a grant. But we just keep reinventing and redoing things when it's already. Did I hear the last agenda item correctly, that it's going to be 1,000 units in 20 years?
That particular project.
20 years? Well, I concur with the speaker who came up. Sir? Yes. We already have things in place. Why don't we have a plan, cut down on the bureaucracy and the staff and all the agencies that are working, essentially working together, and yet we have to have a new plan over here to build a building for 39 units of captive, oh, I'm sorry, fish is gone. Captive, when we get home forward involved, I'm sorry, why do I call them that? Hope, access, potential. When we get groups like this involved, it's this self-perpetuating system where they need jobs for themselves so they can get more people into their system. And ultimately, if we had rent control, we wouldn't have all of this bureaucracy. We wouldn't have to keep building little units here and there. 39 units, what's that? It took them 2 years to plan this. All the staff, all the people being paid, $2+ million from different agencies coming through. For 39 people, we could give them 2 years of rent on just the amount that HAP, Housing Authority, is proposing. And we could fix up the hotels that people are still living in temporarily. We could fix up, monitor to make sure these places are safe, that people can afford them. Instead of spending millions upon millions of dollars for just a few units over here so we could monitor some more people that apparently have mental illness. Well, our whole city has mental illness. We've already got programs like Cascadia and CCC and TPI. Why does Join have to join the bandwagon? Why is Citizens Alliance of Tenants joining in with this umbrella of this so-called emergency when we can't even fix what we already have?
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Watchdog PDX. I do like the fact that we're focusing more on the 0 to 30%, and this project is doing that. In the past, I've heard people say that that's very difficult to accomplish, but at today's time on this project, we're able to do it, and that needs to be looked at very closely. Some of the concerns I have on this information that was presented on the resolution, I'd like to have any of the developers involved on these projects, if you could, on your units, start to break down the square footage of the units that you're building. I want to have a clear understanding when these are presented in front of City Hall and what the square footage breakdown. I'd also like to see on the overall unit price of the development on these projects. I understand this is probably around $250,000 to possibly $300,000 a unit, but I'd like to see that put down in numbers on these type of projects. Another concern that I have on this project is that we're getting back to that term loan or grant on this $3 million amount that we're talking about here. Is that what I want to have a clear understanding again is that from my position, I want to see that paid back over time. Now, one of my biggest concerns I have is that Central City Concern has been around for many, many years. And if this particular project can't pay the loan back, I'd like Central City Concern to commit from other projects that have been put through in the past to begin paying this loan back. I would like to have it begin being paid back no later than 5-year time frame. I think that gives you ample time to try to decide where you're going to come up with the resources. If it's not off of this project, tie it into another project that you've done in the past. I don't think that's unreasonable to do. I don't like the fact I heard a term of a 60-year term, 0% interest, and I heard the term grant. I hope that's not applying to the same amount of money just due to the fact you need to get other financing from other sources and follow certain requirements. Again, this states this is a loan. I want this loan to be paid back. If it's not paid back, I want the building to be taken back from Central City Concern. Again, giving you 5 years to figure out how you can begin making payments on this loan is so very reasonable out in today's marketplace to anybody to be made that offer. But to think you're not going to pay this loan back over this term, that's not going to happen anymore. This loan's going to be paid back, or we're going to take your property back from you at that time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, good morning.
Yeah, I wanted to speak kind of to Nick Fish with his little snacks comment. I mean, you know, you're giving all this money to Central City Concern, and they already have their own coffee company, their own real estate company. They got the whole market cornered. Why don't you guys give them money for snack things, you know? Why don't you start up a little healthy snack company for Central City Concern, since you like snacks so much, Nick Fish, and you like to exclude people from City Hall and stuff like that. That's actually, you know, one of the reasons I'm just going to keep coming here and speaking on like almost every agenda item, because of your unlawful blocking me a couple weeks ago. And then you called the police on me and tried to get me
Is this
excluded.
responsive to this?
This
item?
is not responsive. So, Mr. Davis, talk to the item, please.
So, you know, that's pretty, and
You're free to testify,
Central
but you have
City,
to testify.
Central City
Excuse me, you can
Concern are
testify on the
talking
item in
about,
front of us. That's
about
all.
how they created 500 jobs, right? Well, that isn't crap in reality. For the, how much money did it cost all the workers and all the case people to create these 500 jobs? And what did that support 100 jobs of 100 case workers to get these 500 jobs? Because Central City Concern, as they wage their war on homeless people and also act like they're the helping hand, the nice abusive father that smacks you one day and tells you to go to your room for the next 2 weeks and you're not eating, and then comes in and like, oh, I'm here to save you, you know? So, you know, Central City Concern are this big behemoth monster that go around and they evict homeless people. They're one of the main policing agencies that evict homeless people. So I don't see why they're even in town. You guys need to disband them as an agency. I mean, I could create 500 jobs pretty easily. It's called go rent a bunch of warehouses. You know what? I'm a skilled silk screening company. You want to know what? My parents used to make $2,000 a day before they were made homeless by the government busting them for a little bit of weed and trying to forfeit their property. So I could open up 10 or 20 warehouses and create 500 jobs myself. So for these guys to pat themselves on the back like they're doing a very big, good thing, and then you guys probably think that's a great thing too, that they created 500 jobs. Well, can you tell me how many jobs of these caseworkers and how many Central City Concern people were supported?
Thanks very much.
To
You're done.
actually create these 500
Your
jobs.
time's up, Mr. Davis. Thank you.
Mayor,
Okay, anyone else want to speak on this item?
Mayor, just one comment.
Please.
Totally ineffective.
Mayor, I can't speak over
Go
you.
ahead, please.
Just a council discussion. My understanding is that this community development block grant that is proposed for this project could be structured as a grant or a loan or whatever the financing allowed. My understanding, and I'm not the expert, is that by capturing it as a loan with no interest for 60 years, it allows the developer to leverage other kinds of funding.
That's right.
And
Yep.
so it is tailored to allow them to leverage other funds. I divided the community development block grant by the number of units, and by my math is that we're getting for $100,000 a door, we're getting the most needed housing in our community. with services. I don't remember the last time we've had something before us that had that kind of
Yeah,
leverage.
it's really impressive.
So whether it was a grant or a loan, I would support this application.
Okay, then let's please take a vote.
Fritz,
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. I also was doing some of the math because when people hear about a $10.8 million project for 39 units, they say, well, that's $285,000 a unit. That's a lot. Well, first of all, you can't buy a new apartment for $285,000 in downtown Portland. Secondly, if you calculate it for the Portland Housing Bureau investment of $82,000, which is what we're investing. I calculated over the whole 10.8 million, and for the 38 residents, not counting the resident manager, over 60 years, it works out to $396 a month. And so, as you said, Commissioner Fisher, we can't get that in any other way, and it is a long-term investment for a permanently affordable supportive housing project. So kudos to the entire team for putting this together, and I'm very proud to support it. Aye.
So I'm bursting with glee today. We have a housing emergency. There are people who cannot move from the street to affordable homes. And today, Dan has brought two of our best partners together, Central City Concern and Gerding Edlin, with the Housing Bureau to make a dent, to begin to make a dent in the shortfall. And I will tell you that it is extremely difficult to structure a project like this where almost 40% of the units serve the most vulnerable people in our community, and the rest serve people at 30 to 60. 30 to 60 MFI, just to put the face on it, is someone who is a full-time minimum wage worker or an older adult that is getting by with some public assistance, but not much. So we're providing desperately needed housing with great partners. It's in a good location. It has a tremendous leverage. We're serving the right people. We're building services into the building to make sure that those people are successful. We have great partners. What's not to like? Commissioner Salzman, thank you. This is
No interruptions.
This is a proud day, and to our partners and to your bureau, congratulations on a job well done. Aye.
Saltzman,
Well, I also want to thank all the partners. I want to thank the Portland Housing Bureau, Gerding Edlin, Central City Concern, State of Oregon, and Home Forward for making this project pencil. I also want to acknowledge, as Commissioner Fritz alluded to, this was a very challenging site, having been used as a gasoline station for time immemorial. And so it required a lot of work with the Department of Environmental Quality to get a no further action letter required in order to move ahead on this. And I want to acknowledge Shannon Callahan in my office for helping to work directly with DEQ and getting that property to the point where it can now be developed for very low income affordable housing. So thanks to everybody for a great job. Aye.
You know, as I've gotten older and I hope matured a little bit, I have come to understand that I'm not always the smartest person in the room. I have that experience when I get together with my family because my brother actually is a rocket scientist. And I know I'm not as smart as my brother because he figures out how to make rockets leave ships and go up into space and stop other rockets. And I don't know how he does that. But I'm very impressed. And when I'm around Bud, I know that I'm not the smartest person in the room. The other time I know I'm not the smartest person in the room is when someone starts to describe the financing plan for a tax credit low-income housing project. Because I'm not sure which is more complex, shooting down missiles in space or putting one of these deals together. But both of them are beyond me in terms of their complexity. So my hat's off always when one of these deals comes together. And for it to come together this way, Commissioner Salzman, to serve this part of our community is literally stellar. It is really impressive. And the Unity Center is going to open in October. We're going to have people getting better mental health treatment in crisis, and then they need someplace to live. And this is the kind of place that we need more of for them to live. Central City Concern has this amazing pipeline or lifeline is a better description, of getting people off the street, out of crisis, out of addiction, into employment, into their own housing. This is one more example of how well that works for thousands and thousands of people in our city every year. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to put these deals together, but I'm smart enough to see a good one when one comes along, and this is a very good one. Finally, in this real estate market, I would hazard to say that there are easier ways for Girding Edlin or other firms to make money than to put a project like this together in partnership with a whole bunch of public agencies. And you should be commended for being a socially responsible business, because that's what it takes for us to have partners who are socially responsible businesses. So thank you. Commissioner Saltzman, Portland Housing Bureau, a 10. Well done. Aye. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just note something? I too have a stepbrother who's scary smart. I have a strategy I offered that you may want to share.
Good. I need all the help I can get at family
When I meet
reunions.
with him, I bring Commissioner Novick with me.
Oh, good idea. All right, I'll do that next time. Thank you all very much. Well done. Okay, let's move on, please, to our to the items we pulled from the consent calendar, namely 271 and 272.
271, accept and appropriate a community planning and development grant from Metro in the amount of $310,500 for the Improving Multi-Dwelling Development Project.
Okay, you want to give us a quick primer on this, Joe? Is that where you were coming up? All right, thank you.
Good morning again. Joe Zender with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. This Metro grant pays for staff and consultant time to rewrite the multifamily part of our zoning code, with particular focus on improving the quality and the site planning of multifamily buildings of the generation that were built in East Portland. Larger lots, often they're sited poorly, and lack some basic amenities for more healthy conditions for their tenants. So what we can accomplish through zoning regulations, we're going to take a look at and put in through this project. It also is addressing some of the issues, especially on those East Portland lots, that the Bureau of Transportation has had getting connectivity through these long blocks. So we're trying to improve the multifamily housing there, as well as in the rest of the city. We have a plan, the code and the concept plan for what we're doing written at the end of by June 2017, and then it's just hearing process.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Joe? And I think you wanted to speak on this item, Lightning, is that right? Come on up, please. Good morning.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Watchdog PDX. I wanted to have a clear understanding again what this grant was. And my understanding, reduced barriers to achieving better quality multi-dwelling development in healthy neighborhoods through improved regulations that lead to site and building designs that promote livability and health, result in more efficient and predictable permittings, and aid in the acceptance of new development. Now, as you know, we just talked about a project that did not have to go through the design review process. And one of the things I want to have a clear understanding, I guess, through my position is that I want to see projects go through that process. And I want to also have more studies on having more height density on these projects, because in my opinion, you know, if we don't expand the urban growth boundaries and we keep wanting to have more projects close in east side downtown, we're going to have to start offering more height, plain and simple. And I want more studies to go in that direction and to make sure that we're able to accomplish that. Again, just real fast on some of these projects being developed to the 0 to 30% MFI. I do agree with those projects being developed. Again, and I want to make it very clear, and I'll be very fast, is that when I'm fighting to have loans repaid back, remember it's going back to the city. So I'm on your side when I'm doing that, and I want you to understand that, is that I look at all the options out there to make sure that money is paid back to the city to be utilized in the future, especially if we're dealing with very well-funded, good-sized nonprofits that have been in the business for many years in the marketplace. And if you look at their financials and you pull up how many units they have and how much they're making by the end of the year, you see that they have the ability to pay some of these loans off that they're able to do in the future. And I want that to be understood up front. I'm not saying that someone should try to pay something back that they don't have the funding. They have the funding to do it. And I want to see the city get paid back on these loans in the future, due on sale, upon refinancing. Again, I'm on your side to get the money back to the city, and I want that to be made very clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else? Come on up.
Yeah, I wanted to state too that I'm not against affordable housing. Obviously, I believe that, you know, the city needs a lot more affordable housing, but I also think that you guys could actually do it a lot cheaper by creating tiny homes and building them and putting people in those, you know. And I don't think that Central City Concern is a good organization because they seem to war on the homeless a lot. And, you know, I have actually had some dealings with Central City Concern, and I gotta say they are actually good at getting people their SSI and helping out some people, but there's a lot of hoops that you gotta jump through, and there's a lot of waste. And I think that the city can do a lot better than having Central City Concern be their main poverty pimp that's getting most of the funding, you know. And I don't use that term lightly. If they were actually doing a better job and taking less for themselves, then they probably wouldn't fall into that category with me. And I would like to see you guys actually fund some community-based people that aren't looking for a paycheck. That, like, you know, what if I was going to start up a organization, or some other people that don't have profit as a motive, that would just like their rent paid maybe, or enough to eat on, and they're not looking for $100,000 or more, you know. So there are a lot better ways to cure housing issues instead of having a bunch of crisis capitalism and poverty pimps. So that's all I got to say right now.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a vote, please.
Fritz.
Well, thanks to Jasmine Wadsworth on my staff, I have more information about this grant, which is, again, from the construction excise tax. 35% of multi-dwelling housing is located in East Portland, and this project will coordinate with the East Portland Action Plan, build on the Portland Plan, the Comprehensive Plan, the Mixed Use Project, and the Powell Division Transit Project. So Planning Bureau is coordinating all of this work, and I very much appreciate that. The grant will fund $170,000 to the Planning Bureau staff, $33,000 to transportation, $100,000 for consulting services, and the reason I'm breaking this down is $7,500 for events and translation services. So I'm really pleased to see an allocation for events and translation services. In future grants, I would like to see a more robust component of community funding, so that we make sure that communities, especially in East Portland, who may not have a lot of disposable income or time, are supported in being able to participate. I also want to note that when the project comes back to council, which I hope I'm still on the council at that time, I hope it has both indoor and outdoor required community gathering spaces in it. This is something I've been working on, colleagues, for the last 20 years. I would be so happy to have some requirement for indoor spaces where dwellers of multi-dwelling units could get together, and somewhere other than a parking lot that they could have a barbecue or a picnic. So thank you very much for doing this project. I look forward to that coming to council. Aye.
Aye.
Elfsman.
Aye.
Hales.
Thank you, Joe. Aye. Okay, let's move to the regular agenda. Sorry? Oh, sorry. 272. You need to read that because I'm going to pull it back to my office.
272, authorize a grant agreement with Elders in Action for arts education and access income tax outreach in an amount not to exceed $25,000.
So if there's no objection, I'm going to refer this back to my office for more work. Okay, now, regular agenda, please. 281.
281, authorize disposal of surplus firearms property and authorize an intergovernmental agreement with the Washington County Sheriff's Office for the Portland Police Bureau to proceed with sale of the property.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Rested up a little bit?
A little bit. Good morning. My name is Captain Matthew Wagonet. I'm the captain of the Tactical Operations Division with the Portland Police Bureau. And to my left here is Lieutenant Brian Ostenkopf. He is the commander for the CERT team within the Tactical Operations Division. Real briefly, prior to 2000-2001 transition to the Colt M4 carbine, the Heckler & Koch MP5 was a CERT primary entry shoulder weapon at that time before then. Since that transition about 16 years ago, the MP5's inventory has been maintained but not used. CERT currently has an inventory of about 18 MP5s. Various avenues have been explored to dispose of this weapon system to remove them from the inventory while gathering revenue at the same time. The Washington County Sheriff's Office is interested in 6 of these weapons and is willing to pay $850 for each one. $850 is the value of the weapon if it were sold in parts. And so I'm looking for authorization for disposal of this surplus and authorization for an intergovernmental agreement with the Washington County Sheriff's Office and the Portland Police Bureau to proceed with this sale.
So these weapons will remain in a public safety agency?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
This is for 6 of the 18. What happens to the other 12?
We're keeping them until we can get rid of them in the same fashion. We may be before you again sometime in the future with another agency that may want to purchase them.
Okay. Other questions? Straightforward enough. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Anyone want to speak on this item?
With 3 people signed up, Michael Duro, David Keefe Davis, and Crystal Alinsky.
Okay, come on up.
I misunderstood what
Okay.
I don't object to what they're doing. I thought they were being sold back to the public market.
Oh, yeah, no, they're going to another agency. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
So my name is David Keefe Davis with Multnomah County Cop Watch, and this sales of military grade equipment, it is rather disturbing that we have police that are armed like military, and now, City Hall is basically going to authorize a gun deal to transfer military technology from one police department to another. How would you guys feel, actually, if one of these guns is used to kill a member of the community in Washington County once they get transferred? I know that Mayor Hales, he claims to be anti-gun, even though he's the police commissioner. And, do you guys have any commentary about the militarization of the police and just the over-policing that we as citizens have to deal with? And that, we don't really like the police being armed with military-grade equipment and LRADs and all these other different high-grade equipment that they got, that are more technically used in war zones.
Okay, thank you very much.
I mean,
okay, let's take a roll call,
I
please.
still have time.
Mr.
to
Davis,
talk.
are you finished? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm not.
Go ahead,
actually.
finish.
So I'm just seeing if I can actually get a response.
No, you
maybe,
won't
too.
get a response, but you're free to testify.
But, you guys should really be concerned where these weapons are going. And, if you actually look into a lot of the police departments, there's a lot of not so great people within them, You have multiple organized crime people that are involved with the police, multiple gang members. I have top members of the Portland Police that have admitted that there's multiple gangs working within the Portland Police. And this is not only a problem within the Portland Police, that it's infiltrated by all kinds of criminal elements, but the military as well. And a lot of the military weapons actually get funneled off of the bases. And you want to know what? When I was a little teenage weed dealer in Southern California, I could have bought grenade launchers, grenades, all kinds of stuff. That's the type of stuff that's available to the public if you're in black market drug dealing networks and stuff. So,
Thank you very much.
So,
Mr. Davis, your time's up. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, your time's up. Thanks very much. Okay, let's please take a vote on this.
Fritz.
My staff and I all learned about MP5s and Colt M4s this week. Thank you very much. Aye.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Hale.
Well, I was teasing Captain Wagoner about being tired, but I just want to commend you and the whole team from the Portland Police Bureau for the work they did on the World Indoor Track and Field event this weekend. We got multiple compliments from the organizers of the IAAF for how that whole event was supported by the community and by all of our public agencies, but they were particularly impressed with the professionalism and the friendliness of the officers in the Portland Police Bureau. Got lots of those kinds of comments from the athletes, from the organizers, and in fact, I heard, maybe this is a little out of school, but I heard from one of the security professionals that had come from elsewhere in the country that they were planning to steal the manual for how you ran that event because they want to use it for the next one somewhere else because it was so well done. So, Captain, thank you, and to everyone at the Bureau who put in a lot of extra time and who did get tired because it was a lot of hours of extra work. It was a real success for the city, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate your work on this thoughtful use of police property in a way that will still be used in public safety. Thank you very much. Aye. Thanks. Okay, let's move on to 282.
Approve innovation funding for 5 major and 5 micro proposals for fiscal year 2015-16.
Okay, here comes our Working Smarter team. Good morning and welcome.
Jane Brayton, I'm manager of the Business Operations Division in the Office of Management and Finance. Last week, you were very gracious and let us present our recommendation to ask for your approval of an ordinance authorizing funding for 5 major grant proposals and 5 micro grant proposals under the Innovation Fund. I'm not going to do the group justice, so we had 4 of our presenters come up and explain their proposals, and you were gracious enough to hear them out. Rhonda Fast from the Bureau of Environmental Services spoke about the Crystal Springs Walking Tour podcasts. She's doing a proposal on that, and I think that certainly piqued the interest of Commissioner Fish. Virginia Krakowiak, from the Bureau of Emergency Communications talked about her project. It's creating a volunteer-based organization to care for wounded animals and reduce the number of times that those calls come into 911. And BOEC Director Lisa Turley spoke in support of that. She was here in attendance. Eileen Argentina spoke about a pilot project in the Portland Parks and Recreation to provide free music lessons for youth at the Rosewood Initiative for underserved communities. And Elle Weatheroy from the Portland Police Bureau spoke about the Community Trainer Project. That project will build a cohort of community trainers to provide training to Portland police officers. And in her remarks, she talked about she had presented a submittal for the Innovation Fund an initial time and got feedback about how to strengthen her proposal. She made some changes and brought it back and got the review panel's recommendation for you today. She also mentioned that she shared some of her ideas with Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who was here visiting, and that piqued her interest as well. So we thank the commissioners last week for time to present and hear from our proposals, and now we're here to ask for your support for these 10 projects moving forward in your Innovation Fund. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Sorry I had to miss the presentation. I understand it was great. Any questions before we act on this item? Okay, then it's time to vote then, please.
Fritz.
Thank you for your work. Aye.
Fish.
Just a little back story. The mayor set up this innovation fund, and my recollection is each budget cycle, one or more of us tries to grab money from the fund for something else. And he's put up a little fortress around it because he really believes in this program. And each year, we have the pleasure of hearing about very creative ideas that bubble up through our team members, our valued employees and partners. And it's one of my favorite rituals. And of course, because I have to, of course, brag on the home team, I really love the Crystal Springs walking tour idea and the mapping they've done. And you know, I suspect that particularly with the Orange Line, at some point this will become one of the great destinations that visitors to Portland have a chance to see. And we're going to publish some additional maps and hand them out to our colleagues so they can give them to visitors. But that's just an example of the kind of creative thinking of the people that do all the hard work in this city, the valued public employees that we call colleagues. And thank you for the work you've done in the hard work of screening all these applications and presenting the best to us. And Mayor Hales, I guess thank you for putting up that fence, because this program would not happen if you didn't believe in it. Aye.
Saltzman?
Well, thank you for your work, and thank you for funding or selecting some very innovative sounding proposals. Aye.
Hales?
It's just a great example. Thank you for all your support of this, that there's a lot of creativity in our workforce, and this provides an outlet for that, and that if you create kind of a virtuous competition for good ideas, that people keep coming up with new ones, and this is great. I enjoy the program very much. I appreciate you two very much for being good stewards of it. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's take item 283.
Amend contract with Moss Adams LLP to extend by 1 year for financial and federal compliance audits of fiscal year 2015-2016 and increase compensation by $599,750.
Second reading, roll call.
Fritz?
Aye.
Fish?
Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Hales?
Aye. And we are recessed till 2 p.m. tomorrow.